Shalom Aleichem Internet. Today is the 19th of Adar, the 1st of March. My name is Sandra Gajzinski, and here is this week's Torah Bite. So I hope everybody had a wonderful Purim. I know I did. And now it's time to get into this week's Torah portion, which is Parashat Tisa. This is an extremely intense Torah portion because in it, not 40 days after the Jews heard from God himself the Ten Commandments at Mount Sinai, they managed to go over the spiritual cliff. You like that? I mean, that little reference to current events with the fiscal cliff and the sequester, whatever. They made a golden calf and then served it. Now, a point to make in this discussion as to how the Jewish people managed to serve the golden calf, what they found particularly enticing in serving this golden calf was that they created it, which allowed them, even as they were serving it, to maintain a certain amount of control over it, which is a pretty cushy arrangement in regards to serving a deity, except that it's not an honest one. What's even more fascinating than that is what God prescribed as the atonement for this most terrible of sins. Moshe, after 40 days of pleading and begging and demanding from God to forgive his people, eventually secures that forgiveness, and God says, Salachti kidvarecha. That day becomes the anniversary we celebrate every year, known as Yom Kippur. And God says, this is what the Jewish people shall do. This is the difficult sacrifice they will need to make in order to be granted atonement. And what is this terrible, difficult sacrifice they would need to make? They have to give a half shekel coin. Now, the commentaries on the verse, Zeh Yitnu, this is what they shall bring, explains that Moshe was confused as to what they were to bring, and God reached under his throne and took out a half shekel coin of fire, pointed at it, and says, this is what they shall bring. The commentaries further explain that Moshe was not confused as to what a half shekel coin meant, but as to how a half shekel coin can act as atonement for this terrible sin. And the answer lies in the fact that this was a very unique request from God, which stands apart from, in a sense, from all the rest of the requests or all the ways we connect with God through mitzvot, which is that we take a complete, a perfect, a whole object and use that to bless, to sanctify, to represent, etc. in our relationship with God. A sacrifice that we bring needed to be whole, complete, and without blemish. The Kohanim, the priests that served in the temple, also needed to be whole, complete, without blemish. When we make Kiddush on Friday night or on Shabbat, we do so over a whole cup of wine. When we make Motzi, it is over a whole challah. And here we see that just the opposite. God wanted specifically a half shekel coin. No more and no less. The reason for this is because this was at the crux of the atonement that the Jewish people needed to achieve. They needed to understand that all they are, in all of their completeness and in all their wholeness, all they are is one half of the equation. The second half of who they are is God. This is a relationship we have with God, and we are not complete without him. God asks Moshe to make this message clear to the Jewish people. And not only does it have to be a half shekel coin, but it has to be a half shekel coin on fire. It needs to be with the passion and the commitment that this understanding will truly bring to us. When we understand that we're only one half, then finding our second half and cultivating a relationship with our second half is full of passion and full of commitment, that even when times are difficult and even when things would be easier in a different direction, my passion and my commitment does not allow me to see it in any other way. It's interesting to note that this half shekel evaluation that they took from the Jewish people, then at the moment of atonement for the golden calf, was repeated every year. It was the way that a census was taken of the people. A half shekel coin was taken, and the coins were then used for communal sacrifices and for the communal upkeep of the temple. A half shekel coin was the way that we counted each head of the Jewish people. Again, to make the same point that you are only one half. The second half is your fellow man, is your fellow Jew. Everybody, no matter how wealthy or how poor you were, only brought 1/2 shekel coin. No matter what your status, no matter what your position, no matter what your paycheck is, you're 1/2. And the second half is the rest of the people. This allows one to have the humility and the proper understanding of their place. You are not an island unto yourself. You need your fellow man and you need God in order to complete you. And that is the way that we receive atonement, because atonement is not just to show how sorry you are, but it is how we know we will not come to that in the future to do such a thing again. And that is through understanding that you are only half a coin. I wish you all a complete and wholesome and perfect week. Wishing you all a wonderful Shabbos, and see you next week for the next installment of the Weekly Torah Bite.